So, welcome everyone to this new video, to this interview today with Angaangaq from Greenland. And yeah, I'm very happy and also very grateful to have you here today, Angaangaq, for this talk about death and life and dying and everything that belongs with that. And yeah, first of all, I would like to give a small introduction for the viewers of this video who don't know you. So for everyone out there, Angaangaq, he's a shaman, he's a traditional healer, a storyteller, and carrier of the wind drum, whose family belongs to the traditional healers of the far north from Greenland. Angaangaq, his name means the man who looks like his uncle. And since he was a child, he was trained by his family, especially by his grandmother, Angaangaq, for becoming a shaman. The spiritual task given by his mother is melting the ice in the heart of man and woman, I guess. And Angaangaq's work has taken him to over 70 countries around the world. He conducts circles, seminars, and traditional sweat lodges. His teachings are deeply rooted in the wisdom of the oral healing traditions of his people, which enabled people over thousands of years to survive in one of the harshest places on earth. So yeah, I personally had the honor to meet you, Angaangaq, already several times during your teachings in Germany, amongst them in Frankfurt. And thank you very much for being here today, for agreeing to talk to me about this.
I'm so happy to meet you again.
Thank you. And yeah, so the first question I would like to ask you, the first thing I would like you to share with us is the question, what happens after we die? So is it finished? Is it just the end of life, or is there something that goes on? And if yes, how does it go on? What does happen when we die?
You know, everything begins at the time of conception. When you and I we were conceived by our parents, we start to grow. We carry the energy of our mother and our father within ourselves, but also because of the root we have, our grandparents and so on are inside us, that evolutionary thing. And then we die from the womb of mother. We want to leave that dark place. We want to see the light, just like the plants, the flowers. They want to see the light, so they go through the darkness of the soil and come to the light of the sun. You and I, we are the same. We want to leave, but we cannot leave until we die inside the mother. And it's really interesting. For those who can remember when they were born, the moment they see this world, they say, why did I get out? Because I had everything inside my mother, you know. So it's really interesting. So we were created and we died from the womb of mother. That's the first experience we had. We were born into this world, a whole new world, much bigger than the womb of mother. And then we grow, and then the time will come that we will die, because everyone will die. Everything around us will die. The humans, the animals, the plants, we will all die. And it's really interesting, the process. In the human world, in a traditional way of my people, in the old days, when someone dies, we prepare the body, the washing the body, make it clean, because that would become part of the earth. You know, when it was all frozen, we would put rocks on top of that person. But we don't do that until the soul goes on the person. Why? Because you and I, we have three things in our being. our body, then our mind, two very different energies. Our mind depends on the body, but then we have a spirit. Then on top of that, we have something called soul. Angaangaq in my language. So, and that's the one which will leave our body. And then that entity of us will begin to travel into a journey. And in my tradition, then that person, you and me, we will become part of the Northern Lights. And the beautiful thing about the story is that when you remember someone whom you loved and who loved you, because that just merely that you remember that person will become so happy that you remembered him or her, and immediately he or she will invite all the family members, and there are many. Then they will all invite all their friends. Then they will all invite all their relations, and they will dance. And that's called Northern Lights. We are on the way to the Creator. We travel through many worlds of God. And that's why when you look at the Northern Light, there are many levels, many levels. And they dance for you. Now, because of science, we have learned that they dance 2,400 kilometers per second, and they dance on the big sky. That's your family, whom you remembered, whom you loved, and who loved you. Because of the soul travels to meet the Great One. Your spirit will remain here. And our beloved father, Angaangaq, wrote the story from his ancestors and said that he was walking up the hill. Then he came over and then he looked down the valley and he realized there are graveyard down there. So he went down there to see who are these people. And then he sees many, but then he sees an open grave. So he asked the Great One, "Is this for me?" It was. And then in his story, he says that then the Great One said, "Yes, this is for you." And then he said to the Great One, "But the ones I love and who love me, would they remember me? Would they hear the sound of my voice when I tell them I love them?" And then after some silence, the Great One says, "How can you think that you will be forgotten?" So he asked, "Tell me more." And the Great One said, "As long as the grass and the plants grow on your grave, and those little beautiful flowers come, and then the small birds sing their songs on your grave, how can you ever imagine that you will be forgotten? Because your spirit will live here, because you come from here, and your spirit will become living here. And when we come to your grave, we will remember the sound of your voice, the joy of loving. We are connected together. So, but then his soul will travel. It's very interesting. The animals are just like us. They have their body and they have the mind. and they have the spirits, but they don't have a soul. The plants are the same. They have their body and they have their flowers. That's the spirit, but they don't have a soul. So you and I, we have that difference from all created things, a soul. And that's the one we would travel. I find that story, because I grew up with it, I find it so beautiful when I think now that I'm older, I will die on this world. And when I die, I believe that life and death is one and the same. It's not different. You know that from you were growing up in your mother's womb. And you could not be born unless your mother and father got together intimately. And with that incredible energy, you were created. And then you grew and grew and became big. But then because you're a being, you want to see the light. And then you force yourself out. And then you come just to realize you're completely helpless. You need the love of your mother and your father and the family. And when you grow up with that love, you will understand the beauty of the life which will come to you. If you don't feel it, how can you give it out? How can you give out you know nothing about? So there are many people who grow up not loved, not accepted. And when they grow up, they have a difficulty with many things in their lives. You need a balance, like the wings of the buzzards. Remember? So that's what happens. The beauty of your life started at the conception. The beauty of life became real when you were born, when you died from the womb of your mother and came out here. And as you grow up, you live a life, and then what time will come when you pass on. We grew up, I grew up, because I am older now. I was born so long ago before the impact of the white man. I grew up knowing that sooner or later, I don't know the day, I don't know why, I will die. When I die, my purpose, soul of me, purpose is to meet the Great One. How long? Nobody really knows. And as children, when the old people want to be alone, they send us out. And they will say, go and count how many worlds of God there is. And the northern lights are dancing so fast, and there's so many layers. And the smaller children will count loud because they don't know how to count silently. And they will confuse us. Then we had to start from the beginning. And it's a beautiful, beautiful experience to count the worlds of the Great One. And there are many. No one has yet finished counting how many worlds of God there is. But that's the power of the Creator, the beauty of the Creator.
That's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So the soul travels the different worlds, and it's also, I mean, the soul does come from these worlds to this world before we are, you said we are, well, born into this world, which also means we are dying from the womb of our mother.
Yeah.
And this means at the end of life, actually the same thing happens the other way around. We are dying in this world and we are being born in the other world, but yeah, so this is the same thing in the other direction, so to speak. And from the soul point of view, is it the soul does come from somewhere to this world and then leaves again to other worlds? Will it also come back again, or is it like traveling all through the different worlds?
Traveling into a journey. Everyone's journey is so different. But physically, our connection, the man and woman connection, the intimate love they create, and they have that intimacy together. Out of that, a child will be born. But life started much earlier, because when you start to ovulate the eggs, you were ready. And then when as man started to ejaculate, that's ready. But the life cannot carry on until we came together. So our life started much earlier, before we were created. It was inside your mother and inside your father. So life was in a different form. But then when you were created inside your womb and mother, there's a whole different world. But the energy you carried from your mom and dad. Often someone will look like mother much more clearly. Other times you will be looking much like father, or like grandmother and grandfather, or uncles and aunt. So all depends. But that life already taken form on this earth much earlier than the conception. And then it becomes the form you and I we know. My wife, when she became pregnant, it was so amazing. And imagining that, wow, I created something. That I was not there for my old daughter's birth, or for my young daughter's. I was there. I took her out from the womb of mother. I took her with my own hands. I took her. She was so small and looked so fragile. That's how she felt. But now she's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Powerful, and she looks like my grandmother so much. That is scary. My old daughter looks like my mother. A photocopy of her. And then my young son looks like my father. It's really scary. But those are lives created. So it means that your life is much, much older than you. For this world, that's what your age is. And then when you go, that another journey begins, because you are dying in this world to be born into the next. This time it's your soul traveling. So in our life now, as you and I we talk, our responsibility is to prepare our soul to leave our body. How do we prepare? The old people say that I should love myself first. When I love myself first and accept me the way I am, then that's part of my preparation to leave my body. But life is much bigger than just loving myself. I had to learn to love other people. I had to learn to accept other people. I had to learn to recognize everybody. But in this world, it's really difficult, because we do not recognize each other. We do not like someone with different color, from different tradition, from different continent, different world. There's only one world, remember? So, but we grew up in a little small part of the world. But our purpose is not only to love ourselves first, to love everybody, recognize everybody, accept everybody. When we don't, we become limited in every aspect of life. When I don't recognize the yellow man, the white man, the red man, and the black man, I become very limited. I think I'm better than everybody else. And that's the world you and I will live in now. So we become limited in our evolution to get ready to journey, to travel. So there's much more to life, much more than just to love myself and accept myself. To learn to accept everybody in my world. And how do I do that? I was told that I had to love me. I had to talk to this guy. In the world of modern world today, people do it through their religion. But when you look at the religions they follow, you realize they have not recognized each other. And then it becomes very limited reality. We locked into that belief system coming from here into this one, not to this world. That's a challenge you and I will be faced with in 2020. Life and death is one and the same. We were conceived, but before conception, you lived already in your mother. And when she met your father, the life was already there in him. But that beautiful conception created you, and you grew up beautiful. If your mother had been touching you and massaging herself, and your father had done the same with great excitement and love, your life would be very different from those people who never had that chance. Because I come from a far, far north where very few people live. Every time a woman becomes with a child, all the grandmothers come and then had to take off the clothes of young mother and then chant, oh, to that little child inside the womb. And then you would massage that child over and over and over. And as that child becomes bigger, even more. When my young daughter was born, she was born back home in Greenland. Hundreds of grandmothers come on the street. They would lift my mother's clothes up, my wife's clothes up, and in the street, they would pull it up just to, hello, I love you, I'm your uncle, I'm your aunt, and then massaging, and you say, oh, ho, 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 and they would chant to that little child, and that little child can feel it. Now I know, now my young daughter is like the rest of the family. She grew up with that love. My old daughter, yes, my mother came to visit her, and my brothers came to visit her in Denmark when I was going to school. So she had that experience also, but not as much as her sister. She was conceived in Greenland, and she grew up inside the mother in Greenland, where people. My wife is from Denmark. She is not used to it. When old grandmothers pull her close up, she would be no, and I said, it's okay. And then they would massage her stomach, and they would talk to that little child, introduce themselves. Very few will grow up like that. Tribal people do that. But now in the big cities of Frankfurt, New York, we don't do that anymore. We lost that ceremony. So that's the beauty of that conception and growing up. That preparation of the soul to leave this body and travel into a journey. How many worlds there are, nobody really knows. But one day, God willing, I will meet him. Well, you know, I did die as a child. I bled to death. I traveled to that world. And it is stunningly, amazingly beautiful. What I was part of. So I have no fear to die. I don't really want to die here in the south. I told him many times, when I go home, that's where I want to die. And I want to look into that center of the world where the sun comes up. I want to lie there looking at that world. Because I want to realize as I leave my body here, I want to see the new sun coming up. That's what everybody did in the old days. They would look to that world. So some want to see the sunset. So they would be put to the grave looking at the sunset. Others would be looking to the rays of the sun. I want to do the same. And my wife, who has Alzheimer's, I want her to do the same. And my children, 4 of them, I want them to do the same. And my grandchildren, 6 of them, I want them to do the same. I want to honor that tradition. Yeah.
And you talked about or you already mentioned the ceremonies being very important for life. Would you like, or it would be great if you could share some insights, so to speak, to the ceremonies that you have in Greenland when someone dies. Is there, how does the family, what do they do? You already said that the body will be washed by them, and I guess it's the family there, right? Or are there any morticians? Because here in Germany I'm working as a mortician, so that's my job. But how does it work in Greenland? What kind of ceremonies are there?
When someone dies, then we will wash the body.
So the family will wash the body.
The family washes it.
Yeah.
When my father died, my mother washed the body of her husband. 47 years together. So she washed him and then gave him nice clothes. In the old days, it would be sealskin. And now in the modern Christian world, it's a nice clothes on. In the old days, it was a beautiful sealskin. So so after that, we will have a feast together with my father. He's dead, but people will cook around him.
So he was staying at home and everyone was joining.
Yeah, everybody comes.
Mm.
And then we would talk to each other about Father, and then have good laughs. And sometimes somebody would give him a little bit of food, because they don't want him to be hungry when he travels to God. But it could be a long, long time. And people will laugh at stories about him and then what they remember. And then sometimes we would cry. And it's a beautiful ceremony, because every life is worth celebrating.
Mm.
So that's what when my oldest brother died, I was working in Florida. And when I got into the airplane in the east coast of Florida, his daughter said, "Grandpa is not good." So I flew to Toronto. And when I landed in Toronto, she says, "Grandpa just died now." So I said, "I'm on my way." So I got into the airplane, I flew to Denmark, where he was. And then the daughters had already washed his body, but he was still at home.
Mm.
So everybody cooked all the food he loves. All the food he loves. Everybody cooked, and we were singing together, chanting together, and laughing and crying. And somebody would put some food to him, and I talked about experiences we had together. And because he's an old sailor, he had been all over the world. And he would tell us so many stories when he comes home. And we relive that, we retell that stories and things other people don't remember. And that lasted all night. Nobody slept. Nobody was quiet. People would fall and cry a little bit. And we would laugh a lot and then just enjoyed him for the lifetime.
Mm.
We have a feast. So that's a traditional. And we were preparing his soul to leave. And then, of course, the funeral itself. Now everyone is in the Christian tradition. It's really limited experience. Because you had to, it's just sitting there and somebody sings and we cannot touch him. So when we were burying my oldest brother, the church agreed that we could do the native ceremony. The priest was at the door. So if everybody comes, I was the oldest one. So I talked about my brother, then my next brother, then the next brother, then a sister, and next brother, between two sisters. He lived with our brother together for almost 15 years in the same place.
Mm.
And our oldest brother, they retired, both were old, they didn't work anymore. So it's really interesting that when my brother came, he was so angry with his brother. And he started yelling to him, said, "Why did you die? You didn't even tell me you're dying. You didn't inform me. I didn't get prepared that you died." And I can see the priest. It was so interesting because our brother was able to express his anger that he was left alone. And we just let him talk. And after that, he gave him a kiss. And he said, "You old man, now you can rest." And it was so beautiful how he was able to express, with all of a sudden, he's now living alone. And exactly 3 months to the day our brother died, he died. It was so interesting that he misses his brother so much. He just followed him. So we had to do the same thing again in 3 months. So we all come together. We had dinner with him. We chanted, we cried, we laughed, we talked about him, what we remembered, repeat the same thing, and we back to the same church. And one by one, all brothers and sisters, the 8 of us, and now there's only 6 of us. We talked, and his children and his grandchildren, and then we buried him. And nobody gets burnt. It's a modern world now, that people get burned. And in our tradition, we don't burn people. The spirit has to live. The memory has no limit. That's why people don't get burned. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. There's another question coming up to that one, if I may ask it also.
Please.
Because I've been working with grieving people in Germany for some years now. And when you talk about this ceremony, this coming together, and about your brother who was able to express his anger, and everyone being able to talk and to express whatever feeling was there, or feelings probably. What does it mean for grief in your culture? Like, is there after the funeral, are there any more ceremonies during maybe the first year of grief or something like that? And how are people supported in their grief? Is there, can you talk about that?
We will pick up some earth and we will talk to him and put earth on him.
At the grave?
At the grave. Why? But this is the last time we see him. And we know that as time goes, his body will disintegrate. Small animals will eat the body. Those small animals will be eaten by bigger ones, and the bigger ones, and then they will all die. And when they all die, then that's the animals eating the body. Then the plant will eat those animals who died, and the beautiful flowers will come in his spirit. But they will all die. Then the mineral will eat them, that energy. And out of there will come gold, silver, diamond, rubies, sapphires, and iron, zinc, and all these minerals will go on. Because all the mineral work depends on what they eat, what's happening in earth. So that's why we give earth to the dead one. We know that. Then, of course, sometimes people will say, oh, I wonder, maybe I will become a diamond. And we will all smile and say, oh, that sounds very good. And others will say, no, maybe a ruby. Oh, somebody will say, maybe I will become a coal, black coal, And so, oh, you will smoke a lot. And we have beautiful time with those traditions. Everyone will go through a process, everyone. So memory is long time, it's not just now. When I go home, I will visit all my relatives one by one. I have so much to be thankful for to them. what they gave me and what I was able to share to the world. I will go home and do that. That's my ceremony for my ancestors. Then I will chant in prayer that they can hear me wherever they are in the big sky. And that ceremony is, he wasn't born yesterday. He will not die tomorrow. My prayer is that he will carry on generations after generations. Everyone is worth remembering. They came here to be a gift, and they left the body to travel back to the great one.
That's beautiful.
So that's the story. Can I chant a little chant?
Yeah, of course.
Oh.
That would be great.
Our topic is so important. But right now, my beautiful wife has Alzheimer's, and she is very weak now, very weak. And I want to remember her beauty of her life on this earth, where I had to get myself ready to let go. I don't know when she will die. She doesn't remember anymore, but she still has a beauty, enormous beauty in her. So I want to chant that prayer of melting the ice in the heart, because everyone is worth a chant. Everyone, no matter how they have lived, no matter what has happened to them, they contributed something to the world you and I live in. So this is for me and my beloved Seneca. That's her name. Was she there in Frankfurt when you saw me?
No, I haven't met her.
She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Yeah. She just turned half a year ago, 74. Just a young woman.
Yeah, that's not old.
Anyway, this is for my beloved Seneca. Oh, oh, oh.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Ich bin ein Bayer. Vicky sagt in Bayerisch, große Danke.
Yeah, I can't say it in your language. I can only say thank you. Danke. How do you say in Greenland when you say thank you?
Oyanak.
Oyanak? Oyanak. Oyanak. Thank you.
My greetings to your family.
And mine to you.
Do you have a family? Your mom and dad and brothers and sisters and husband?
Yes,
and kids?
I have mother and father and brother and husband. This is my family, small family.
My greeting.
Thank you.
And if you see me downtown Frankfurt, you have to say uncle and invite me for coffee.
Of course, I will. I know now that you like the European coffee, so I will invite you. Thank you.
I'm so happy to meet you there.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much for sharing everything
you.
that you shared with us.
I only hope that it makes sense to you.
It did. It did. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.